Hey friends, welcome to the Raising Boys and Girls podcast. I'm Sissy Goff.
And I'm David Thomas.
And I'm Melissa Trevathan.
And we're so glad you joined us for this conversation. Let's dive in. Dr. Lauren King is a psychologist committed to helping girls and young women ages 5 to 30 triumph over challenges such as eating disorders, body image concerns, negative self-esteem, anxiety, depression, and trauma. Lauren adopts a positive, optimistic approach focusing on her clients' strengths to instill confidence and help them achieve their objectives. Lauren's educational journey began with a BA from Samford University, leading to her doctorate from the Fuller School of Psychology. She has a diverse professional background, including working at an outpatient clinic, a community counseling center, and a partial hospitalization intensive outpatient center for eating disorders. She also has experience in providing in-home therapy for children on the autism spectrum and special needs. Her years of private practice experience have honed her skills and knowledge in the field. Enjoy this conversation with a wise, thoughtful friend and gift to the Nashville community and beyond.
Lauren, we have been talking about how we have wanted to have you on here for so long, and we have, as long as you've been in town, we have respected what you and your team are doing at Southeast Psyc. Have been so grateful for you all.
Yes.
And so we would love for you to start with maybe telling a little bit about yourself and how you found your way to the work you're doing now.
Yeah. Thank you guys for having me. I'm excited to be here. You've both been so supportive of our practice. And really the way that I got into psychology is that when I was in college, I had a mentor pass away. She and her child died in an accident. And it shattered me. It was very hard. I was like a sophomore in college. I was a pallbearer for the baby. And I remember thinking, how do you get through this? Like, how do people get through this? And I remember looking around the funeral and thinking this is how we get through it, is each other. That God's given us each other to get through hard moments. And that is what really made me want to be a therapist. And I actually met with Sissy. She doesn't remember this, but when I was in college, I thought, I think I want to be a therapist after this event happened. And I emailed you and asked you to go to coffee. I was like, you're a therapist I've heard of. And so you went to coffee with me at Bread and Company in Green Hills. And I picked your brain and I said, I'm trying to decide, should I get my doctorate? Should I get my master's? And you kind of said, well, if you want to do testing, you should be a psychologist. If you want to do testing as part of your career. And if you don't, then you should. So you really inspired me to go, I do think I want to go ahead and get my doctorate. And so I did. And so you're actually a part of my story, which is pretty cool. Yeah.
I totally forgot that. That's amazing.
So, and I would say still, even to this day, that's a big reason why we take on interns. We take on undergrad interns, because I think it's hard when you're an undergraduate student to try to get any experience in this world. So we take on undergrads in the summer to do literature reviews and things like that.
Awesome.
So that was really inspiring to me. Yeah, thank you.
Well, I'm so glad. I was thinking, I don't know that I've ever told you how I got my start, but it was from watching Marlena on Days of Our Lives.
It was.
A psychologist, so
oh my
yours
gosh,
has so much more depth
now wait,
beauty than me watching Days of Our Lives.
Did Marlena get possessed? Do I remember that?
I feel certain. Yeah,
Okay.
that hasn't happened to me yet, but yes, it did with Marlena. She also was married to the same man, two different faces, actors. Yeah.
I'm named after Luke and Laura.
No, you're not.
From General Hospital.
No.
Yes, my mom wanted to name me Laura, and my dad said, we cannot name our child after a soap opera character. And she said, fine, I'll call her Lauren.
No.
That's
okay, well, this says a lot about our age difference because my parents, I don't know if you got to do this. My parents let me skip school for Luke and Laura's wedding.
That's awesome.
I remember it so
it was
well.
A big
His
deal.
Curly hair. It was a huge deal. Wow. I liked you so much before and maybe even more now. That's awesome. The age of soap operas.
Kids in the 70s and 80s watching those soap operas on the regular. Yeah. It's so funny.
Now it's all Outer Banks, which is the same.
It's just still a soap opera.
Yeah.
Totally.
Just on at night.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you asked the question about Marlena, I thought of likely, and she had a twin sister, and she died and came back to life at some point too, like all the above.
So crazy.
That was the plot line in all the soap operas. I love this. Okay, jumping from soap operas back to the work.
Right, sure. What?
You all are one of our favorite referrals for testing.
And that is for sure.
In thinking about parents who are listening who may have considered testing, who may have some fear about a diagnosis, would you speak to just the benefits of having more information on hand for kids and parents and kind of how the process works?
Yeah, I'm a big believer in knowledge is power. The more you know and understand your child, the better equipped you are to help them and support them. And really, we do very individualized testing. So when students come in, whether it's a psychoeducational evaluation or it's a developmental evaluation to see if they might be in the autism spectrum or, whatever it is, we are also always looking at, is there an emotional piece to what's going on and able to rule that out. So we're able to do really thorough testing and understand not just what a child's struggling with, but also what they're good at. What are their strengths? What are they excellent at? And I think we're really good at delivering a clear report on a child, but also an encouraging one that says, yes, they struggle with this. Everyone has a struggle, but here's what they're awesome at. Here's what they can use to sort of, be able to live in this world in a way that's really powerful. I think it's very encouraging to children, ultimately, when you can present both the strengths and the weaknesses.
Yes. I say to parents often, I wish I could get tested.
Yeah.
I mean, I just think it's fascinating to learn how their brains work.
Right.
I love that you all are highlighting the strengths too. That's amazing.
Yeah. So, your child might struggle with a slower thinking rate, but they may have great higher order cognition, or they might have a great little social IQ, but really struggle with phonetics. I mean, and I think even if you're looking at autism testing, autism is a spectrum for a reason. One child, if you think about a spectrum, like at one end of the spectrum is a glass of water and the other end is a lemon farm. All in between, you've got a glass of water with a little lemon squeezed in, weak lemonade, lemon juice, a lemon and a lemon farm, right? If your kid's on the autism spectrum, they might be like water with a little lemon squeezed in, or they could be on the lemon farm. And so there's a lot of variety within that diagnosis, and really understanding what within that they might be struggling with is so important,
Will you talk about, what happens? Because that's a question we have a lot from parents when we refer someone. What's it like? What do the kids do? What is the parent? What's the role of everybody?
Right. So an assessment is actually several hours long. The first part of it is a parent interview. The child does not come. The clinician is interviewing on developmental background, that kind of thing. They're going to send the parent home with some checklists that they're going to fill out. They might give them checklists to give teachers. There might be a part where the clinician goes and observes the child in the classroom as well. Then the child is going to come in and do some testing in our office. We do some testing at schools. There are some schools who have us actually come do some of that. But the child might play with blocks, answer questions, play games, play with baby dolls. Depending on the age of the child or the adolescent, they're going to do different things. It's about 6 to 8 hours of testing, and we do it over multiple days typically. Then the clinician goes through and scores all of that. They write a really sort of individualized report for the child, and then the parents come back in alone and do about an hour-long feedback session with the clinician, going through the entire report. They can ask any questions they want to ask. They don't just get sent a report with no questions, right?
Yeah.
So there really is a feedback. And then if they want feedback with the child there too, we can help with that.
I'm going to keep digging in more questions on this. We do a lot of, I don't know if you have this experience, but we do a lot of parent consults over Zoom. And so often in smaller towns, people will say, I have no idea where to go.
Yeah.
Can people come in town and do this with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they can come in and stay overnight, and we can kind of do it all in one day.
Okay.
Or they can come in, and if they've got a child where they think, we're not going to be able to do it all in one day. We've got to break it up. We can do it over a couple days, but we have had that happen before. Yeah.
So grateful for that. Well, okay, Lauren, so alongside the warmth and empathy and understanding that you bring to your work, you also have years of experience in a variety of settings. One of those is providing in-home therapy for children on the autism spectrum, as you're talking about the lemon farm and other special needs. Parents who are new to that diagnosis, what encouragement would you give those parents?
Sissy, we've had 3 people at our office get sick the past week. It feels like that time of year when lots of colds and viruses are floating around.
I am drinking hot tea, trying to get good sleep, and you know what else is part of my wellness routine?
Patches.
She is definitely good medicine for the soul, but I'm talking about Manucora honey. It contains powerful nutrients to support immunity and gut health. I put it in my tea. I mix it in my protein shakes. I even add it to salad dressings.
I add it to my coffee. Monocora puts all other honey to shame. The best way to use Monocora is straight from the spoon first thing in the morning, letting the creamy texture melt in your mouth and coat your throat. It's part of my podcast prep.
It's a game changer, and all you need is 1 heaped teaspoon each morning to get the most out of the amazing bioactives in Manuka. It's a honey with superpowers.
Now it's easier than ever to try Monocora honey. Head to monocora.com/RBG to get 25% off the starter kit, which comes with an MGO 850 Plus Monica honey jar, 5 honey travel sticks, a wooden spoon, and a guidebook.
That's MANUKORA.com/RBG for $25 off your starter kit.
Okay, Henry asked me the other day if I take vitamins. When I said yes, he asked if I took Hiya.
I love that he asked you that.
I told him I have to take old man vitamins, and sadly, Hiya doesn't make those. He then asked if my old man vitamins came in a cool bottle, and I told him sadly they didn't.
I bet he was sad you were missing out on so much.
He was. Thankfully, he is not. Typical children's vitamins are basically candy in disguise, filled with 2 teaspoons of sugar, unhealthy chemicals, and other gummy junk growing kids should never eat.
That's why Hiya was created, the pediatrician-approved, super-powered, chewable vitamin.
Hiya fills in the most common gaps in modern children's diets to provide the full body nourishment our kids need with a yummy taste they love.
Hiya is designed for kids 2 and up and sent straight to your door, so parents have one less thing to worry about. You know, we keep them at the boys' house, my house, and the lake house, and they had a ball decorating the cool bottle Hiya sends with the first order.
And Hiya just launched an awesome new collab. Tell folks about that.
The same multivitamin that more than 1 million kids and parents love are now available in Barbie Pink with a limited edition Barbie unboxing experience, including a Barbie bottle and Barbie stickers.
I also recommend checking out their new Kids Probiotic and Nighttime Essentials.
We've worked out a special deal with Hiya for their best-selling children's vitamin. Receive 50% off your first order. To claim this deal, you must go to hiyahealth.com/RBG.
This deal is not available on their regular website. Go to hiyahealth.com/RBG and get your kids the full body nourishment they need to grow into healthy adults.
Yeah, I know it can be a hard diagnosis to get, but I would really encourage those parents to not think about it like a disorder. It is, I love this term that's come up, neurodiversity, right? It really is just a different brain. I don't think about autism like I think about an eating disorder. And that's something I treat a lot. Like with an eating disorder, we really are trying to heal you from this and get rid of this and this not be the story of your life. With autism, this is a big part of who you are and always will be. And there's actually some really cool things about being on the spectrum. Because of the narrow range of interest and the ability to hyperfocus, your child could be the best in the world at what they do, right? There are some really cool things that come along with it. And also just teaching parents to really seek support and use their community well, right? But the biggest thing to me is just go, hey, my kid's got a different brain and it's a cool brain, but there's nothing wrong with it.
Yes, thank you so much for that reminder. Yeah.
And thinking about the support, I love that you talked about that midway through. Will you talk a little bit for parents who may be new to this diagnosis? Like, what could emotional and social support look like for those kids?
Yeah, so at home, I would say modeling, parents doing a lot of modeling and role play and pretty direct feedback, not unkind, but very direct. So like when that happened, what do you think that felt like for me? Or how did that come across to me? How might that come across to other people? So I think, hi, Patches. So lots of that kind of stuff at home is really helpful for the kid. And, when you've got a child who does have some challenges, using your community well. Like if someone says, can I do your laundry? Can I bring you a meal? Like just say yes. Every time say yes. Let people help in the ways that they can, And I do think group therapy and therapy, social skills training can be incredibly effective to make the parent feel like they're not the only one helping the child learn these skills.
You all do a beautiful job in all those spaces.
Yes, you do.
You're
we are
beautiful
so grateful.
job in all those spaces.
Thank you.
And speaking of group therapy, I wanted to ask about that because you all believe in the benefits like we do. And what do you see in terms of what it does bring to kids and adolescents? And how do you see it support their social development specifically?
Yes. So we have a couple of groups we run. One is called Peers. Are you guys familiar with this?
No, I'd love to.
It's a program out of UCLA. It's evidence-based for adolescents. There's a parent portion. The parents meet together every week. I think it's 14 weeks long. And then the adolescents meet together for 14 weeks. And it's great. It teaches a lot of skills like don't police other people, how to respond to teasing, how to respond when you're rejected from a group, how to respond when you try to enter a group you're at first accepted and then you're rejected, right? How to spread positive rumors about yourself, right? How to sort of have a back and forth without being in sort of interrogator of the other person. And there's a lot of like,
Those
don't
are things that adults need to be learning too. We all need those skills.
Yes. Don't be a conversation hog. Like how to use your, and they use these videos, they role play a lot. Here's how to do it. Here's how not to do it. And then the kids have to, they have to phone call each other outside of group and practice these skills and come back and say how it went. So Peers is wonderful. Dr. Goodlad at our office really runs those and introduced us to those. And then we have a little friendship group right now that starts in January for 3rd to 5th grade boys on social skills. So we just, we see kids learn more from each other than from us in groups, right? Where they kind of come in and say, hey, I tried this. This actually really worked for me, or this didn't work for me. What went wrong? I just think it's so powerful.
And such a safe place to practice.
Right.
All the skills.
Right. And the parents are there sort of supporting them too and knowing what they're learning and what they're supposed to be doing.
So good.
We certainly do individual social skills work. We have a clinician who specializes in something called floor time, which is very similar to ABA, but instead of being kind of top down, it's more bottom up.
Will you say what you mean by ABA?
ABA is applied behavioral analysis. That's actually what I did. Sort of right when I got out of grad school, where I would go in the home, you're analyzing behavior, you're creating sort of rewards and consequences to shape up the behaviors that you want in a child, whether it's rolling a ball back and forth or it's, being able to have a conversation, any kind of behavior, right? And you can do this with kids who are nonverbal, verbal, anything. And it's kind of the go-to in terms of ABA. But floor time is really unique because it actually says reciprocity is first. Relationship is king, and that's the first part, is really the engagement, the affect. Let's start there, and then let's kind of get to the behaviors. So it's a way of evaluating and intervening with kids who have any kind of developmental issue. And it's really great and effective. It's a very connected, I think, like as someone who did practice ABA, it sort of helps with what ABA is lacking, I would say, but it might look similar sort of at first, but it is a little bit more relational in nature, which I love. And you can do it with like 8 months old up to 14 or 15 years old.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, you mentioned reciprocity. This season of the podcast, we're focusing on emotional, social, and spiritual milestones we want to see kids moving toward throughout development. And we are camped out in this stretch of the podcast talking about the social milestones and reciprocity in particular. So I loved when I heard you talk about the conversation hog a few minutes ago. So what would you say to parents who are seeing evidence of their kids or their adolescents struggling in this space, ways they could support helping develop that particular social muscle?
Yeah, I think really looking at your child like a scientist in some ways, like becoming a little non-judgmental and just curious about why those things are happening and maybe where things are going wrong, and why is that happening? What's the purpose of the behavior? But also, Dr. Goodlad at our office uses this analogy a lot where he's like, let's pretend like it's a multiverse and we're on different timelines, right? So if we're in a multiverse and you were living on a different timeline and you'd made a different choice in that conversation, in that back and forth, how might it have changed the outcome? And kids really like that and kind of view it as non-judgmental and fun to think about, right? And just giving very kind but direct feedback. I think particularly in the South, sometimes we're really good at being kind, but not very good at being honest. We can be very syrupy and roundabout in our communication with children. And, some people are really good at being honest, but not kind. And so as a parent with a child like this, you've got to be both. You've got to be like, this is how that came across to me, sweetie. And that person was kind of teasing you. You really took the bait. How could we do that differently? And then model how not to do it. That's very important with kids on the spectrum. Model the wrong way and then model the right way.
Would you say some of the same ideas apply for kids who have ADHD?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It's so good because I think that perspective taking is probably a little stronger, but just gets bypassed with the impulsivity. So it's just slowing it down.
Yes.
They have the skill certainly to do the perspective taking, but they just miss it.
Yes.
Sometimes.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's great.
Well, and I loved the wisdom of you beginning to answer that question by talking about being a scientist. I just think and really studying what might be the root cause, because I had a conversation this week with a parent whose son he's really controlling and bossy, and they're working so hard to address the social hiccups that are happening. And I think it's an undercurrent of anxiety, because I just think anxious boys are really controlling and rigid. And I think to the degree that we're being scientists, we're going to hit that root cause, hopefully address that, because the more in control he feels internally, I think he feels less the need to control the people around him externally. And so I love that you led with that. So good.
Yeah. Thanks.
So much good stuff in this.
Thanks.
And I would circle back around while you're talking about anxiety and we're talking about ADHD. I mean, that's one of the reasons we recommend kids get tested so often too, is because all of these things we're talking about can be so hard to differentiate, and how you parent is different based on what's going on with your child.
Yeah, you're going to parent an ADHD kid very differently than a kid struggling with anxiety. And if someone just gives them a little checklist and says, do you have trouble paying attention? And they say yes, and we go, okay, we have ADHD. I mean, we're going to have a lot of kids misdiagnosed and overdiagnosed with ADHD. And that's why it's so important to me, really passionate about doing a thorough evaluation and ruling everything out and making sure you're right.
Yes.
Yes,
I agree. Well, so, okay, if we back up a little, we would love to hear the 2 to 3 statements you find yourself saying to kids the most these days, and why.
David, how was your trip to the beach for Thanksgiving?
We had a ball. I did miss my dog, though.
Of course you did.
And you know what else I missed? My Our Place cookware. I'm very attached to both.
I get it. Our Place is a mission-driven and female-founded brand that makes beautiful kitchen products that are healthy and sustainable.
In comparison, most of today's nonstick pans contain PFAS, also known as forever chemicals, which are under increasing global scrutiny for their impact on the environment and our health. Most cookware brands continue to use these chemicals due to their low cost.
Our Place came out with non-toxic cookware and appliances that are changing the game. And did we mention that they're beautifully designed in beautiful colors that feel like art objects that elevate any home and make you feel creative in the kitchen?
You know, we have the Always Pan 2.0 in Sage, and I'm obsessed with that thing. Find out why Our Place has 75,000 5-star reviews on their award-winning products, and they've been mentioned in the New York Times, Bon Appetit, and more.
Upgrade to Our Place today and say goodbye to forever chemicals in your kitchen. Go to FromOurPlace.com and enter our code RBG at checkout to receive 10% off site-wide.
That's FromOurPlace.com, code RBG. Our Place offers a 100-day trial with free shipping and returns.
So one would be thank your brain, because it's just trying to protect you, right? So that's something I'm always like, well, let's just say thank you, brain, right? So whether it's I want to avoid this social situation, I want to avoid school, I'm having this intrusive thought, whatever the thing is, your brain has a lot of jobs. Its main job, though, is to keep you alive, and it doesn't really know what to make you feel scared of and what not to make you feel scared of. And so it's really just trying to protect you. So we talk a lot about that.
So good and kind, and helps them feel more normal. I'm sorry.
Thank you. No.
Helps them not feel like something's really wrong with me.
Yeah. Instead of like, oh gosh, this is this bizarre thought, or like, what is wrong with me? Why can't I do this thing everyone else can do? It's like, oh, your brain's just trying to protect you. You have to say, thank you, brain, for trying that. But guess what? I'm in charge, right? Like I'm driving the bus and I know I'm safe and I can do this. Another one would be something along the lines of, let's get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Really trying to get kids to be brave and do things that are hard, that avoidance and enabling and rescuing is just, we keep seeing over and over in the research, not the way to go with our children. And so just trying to make them a little more hardy emotionally,
Hardy's a good
Do you
word.
guys, are you feeling that too?
Amen.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Can you see us cheering you on?
I know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, let's flip the question and ask you the same thing with parents. What
Okay.
are 2 or 3 things you're saying there and why?
Okay. Well, I would say one is that it's okay to use your intuition. Like, I do feel like we're sort of in this time of parenting where it's all very rules-based. Like, if you're following the gentle parenting method or you're following, whatever the method is, you follow these rules no matter what it feels like in the moment. This is what you're supposed to do. And parents are just so caught up in like doing it right and doing it perfectly. And I think for most parents, they have good intuition and it's okay to trust that. That would be one. I don't know. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then I think the other one is just being sort of more non-judgmental and curious about your kids, like we were saying before, just going, what might this be about,
Yes.
And taking a breath, taking a beat yourself, not taking it personally or having pride as a parent. Yeah.
Yes, that's so good. We just got to do an interview with Rosalind Wiseman, which was so fun. And she talked so much about curiosity with kids and how it unlocks so much with them.
Yeah.
So we have been talking, and my guess is you're seeing the same thing, that in all these years of doing this work, we have felt like parents have never been as weary.
Yeah.
And I think so much of it is exactly what you're saying, this sense of there's so much I have to be doing. And so thinking about what encouragement you would want to give to weary parents, what would you say?
So I use my favorite method used with eating disorders is something called family-based treatment. And it's now blended with an emotionally focused family therapy, which I really love. And they use this metaphor, and it's called the good house, bad house metaphor. And so it sort of says when you're parenting out of the bad house, that means you're parenting out of a place of guilt and fear and shame. Oh, what did I do to cause this? I must have said something, done something. And you're actually much less effective from that place as a parent. If you're parenting out of the good house, it doesn't mean you think you're perfect. You may have done some things that impact your child. And if that's the case, you've repaired it with them. You've made a good apology, and you've sort of said, I apologize for this. I'm asking forgiveness, and we've moved on past it. The good house metaphor says, I am capable of good for my child. I know and love them better than anybody in the world. And I'm capable of good for my child over time and space. I'm not perfect, but I can do this. Like parent out of that place, out of the good house, and so your house is really stronger, right, from that place. So that's something I really, because a lot of my clients with eating disorders, when their parents come in, they are full of shame and very exhausted and terrified because medically their child is compromised potentially. And so that's sort of the first thing I do is I say, we're not going to be effective as a team. You're the head of the team. We're not going to be effective if you feel like you've caused this, you've done this, you're bad, you can't figure it out.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yes.
I've heard that. I love that.
Okay, we don't have any desire to end this
I know.
conversation with
I
you,
was thinking.
but we did vow to be respectful of your time. And so we end every conversation with something food related. We're going
Right.
to jump from parenting to food.
Okay.
We've got a 2-part question for you. Part 1 is queso or guac.
Okay.
Part 2 is what's your favorite taco?
Oh gosh. Okay. Queso or guac is hard because I could eat chips and dips till I die. I
Me
really
too.
Yes.
Same.
Do you know my retirement dream is just to live at the beach and eat dips and appetizers?
Have you watched Only Murders in the Building?
Yes, he loves dips. I was like, this guy is my spirit animal. I don't know.
Yeah.
But okay, if I had to choose, it would be guacamole because I feel like there's more chance for variety.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know, more mix-ins, different
Mhm.
textures. What would you
Great
guys
point.
say? What's
Yeah.
yours, by the way?
And the avocados are real
Yeah.
healthy.
Yeah.
So
Right.
there's a lot of wins
Yeah.
there.
Yes.
What's yours?
I mean, I wish I could say I love guacamole.
Yeah.
But I'm a queso girl.
You are? Okay.
Yes. Yes.
So good.
Tableside guac for me just
Oh,
it's next
fancy.
level. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then my favorite taco, Oh, you know what I really love is, have y'all been to Mojo's Tacos?
No.
Okay.
I hear great things.
It's pretty good. They have a taco called the Puffy, and the like flour tortilla itself is puffed up.
Ooh.
So good. So
Okay.
good.
Does it matter
Yes.
what's in it? Just anything.
I don't really even know. It's a meat. Can you tell I'm not a
The
picky eater?
exterior is so good. You just go with it.
I am not a picky eater. I
That's
love
awesome.
all foods. So these are actually like really hard questions for me because I like all things.
No.
Yeah.
Lauren,
We'd love
you
to
are-
have that taco
Yeah.
with you.
Yes.
Let's do it. Let's
Amen.
have Mojo's
We'd
sometime.
love it.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
We'd
kind of
love
far from here, but if you're ever in Franklin at the factory, check it out.
it. We'd love just to
Yeah.
come hang out with you.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank y'all
Just
for having
so
me.
Grateful
Such a
for the
gift to
difference
our
you're making.
community.
Great questions.
You are.
Thank you.
David, what a team we have that we get to call friends who help make this podcast possible.
Amanda Young, our operations manager,
Chris Starrett, our engineer.
our management team at H Squared.
We are thrilled to be a part of the That Sounds Fun network.
Our music was created by the insanely talented Dave Haywood of Lady A.
And if this podcast felt helpful to you, please consider subscribing, liking, sharing, all the things.
We are grateful for you and cheering you on always.